Blue sword with a stabby tip. Let's jump right into it. It's already got the handle and the pommel, so we're just going to get started on the blade, how to build the blade. Great? Cool. Alright. So typically, we start with what's known as a box. So you're going to build a little box around the core, and that's going to be our base to build off of for the rest of the build. So if you're new to this, I usually recommend measuring a lot, measure everything, and try to get it as precise as possible. I like to eyeball simply because I can at this point. But if you're new, measure everything. Let's get this down. So I'm slicing along here as close to the core as I can get without being off by too much.
With the box cutter?
With the box cutter. You can use a scissor, a knife, basically anything sharp. So you got one strip of foam just like this, and we're going to make another one just like it out of this that I've already got cut.
What are you doing right now?
I'm just cutting an identical strip of foam, just like it, out of an extra piece that I had lying around.
For the other side?
Yeah, always use scraps if you've got them of the right size. No sense in wasting the big pieces. And you can use a small one.
Measuring it up right there just to make sure that he cuts it about right.
Exactly.
About how long did it take to make a blue sword usually, Cameron?
If you're new, take your time, be slow, don't worry about getting it done in a certain amount of time. Give yourself plenty of room to work with in terms of time. For me, it takes about an hour, maybe less.
For some people, it's an hour. For some people, it's 2. Especially the first couple times you make it, it might be closer to 3 hours. Just making sure that you do the process right and everything. But once you get the hang of it, then you can start making them a little quicker, like Cameron here, who's been doing it for a while.
Indeed. All right. So, next bit we're going to do is just tape the core. So the way I like to do it is I like to put the tape on the core as close as I can here.
Double-sided duct tape.
Yeah. This carpet tape does not want to go. Can I borrow a scissor?
Yep. I'm going to borrow your exact knife edge.
Where are we putting the finished sword?
There's 2 right behind the shield. On the shirt.
Oh, yeah.
Notice he's wrapping it around, making sure that that's strapped on there good.
Yeah, you want it nice and tight. Loose tape at this stage will mean a loose core later on, and then you'll have to remake the whole sword.
In other words, this is pretty much the most important, or one of the most important steps, is making sure you do this well.
The early stages are the most important. Whenever you're making a sword, really focus and be careful when you're building these first couple of steps. Before we get much further, since we're building a stabby tip into this, we're going to cap the core.
How do you cap the core, Cameron?
Well, you take a penny, and you tape it to the top. That way, this doesn't punch through the eventual foam.
Because that could hurt.
You use stabbing weapons. So any kind of major stabbing weapon, you have to cap the core. Smaller swords, you don't always have to do it. I've had no problems with some swords that I know have never been capped, but it's best to do it just for safety. And certainly because we're videotaping it, we should do it all right. That wasn't a joke, but okay.
It was still funny!
Funnier than anything Dylan said.
I was just laughing because my laugh's going to be on there and it was a stupid laugh.
That's true, Dylan. It is a stupid laugh.
Yes, it is.
Alright, so there is a little strip here that's not covered in tape, but that's not a big deal, simply because we're not using that portion of the core yet. Alright. So notice it's not exact here. You know, there's a little bit of edging that's kind of weird. That's actually not a bad thing. A lot of this is going to get compressed down. You want a little bit of an extra edge.
Meaning coming off along the sides.
Yeah.
Because if you look down
I'll trim
there now.
some of this down, but for the most part, you just want it even along the whole core. Precision is not the name of the game.
So when making those initial cuts and stuff, make sure that if you do cut it a little wide and not thin.
Yes, that's usually my recommendation. Or by all means, you can make any adjustments you choose.
Yes, thank you.
I've got a little extra here. You can cut it, rip it off, do whatever you need to do.
Some sort of adhesive.
Now, some people make different. Josh, can I have the scissors again, please? Some people will decide to do different things about the penny. I like to just take a chunk, double-sided tape, and as long as it's a little bit bigger than the penny, you should be able to wrap it pretty fully.
Where can you throw me that outside there?
Your sword. Do you need help with the pommel part?
Okay. So now that we got this, that's half our box. The other half is going to go on right here. Now, before I measure or cut anything, I like to compress the foam down a little bit so that it makes sure that it grips the core fully. Now, the other half of the reason why I cut my foam a little wide is because this is a rounded core and these are flat sides. And so you want this to wrap over onto those rounded portions of the core as much as possible. That way you have as little foam just hanging out as you can. X-Acto back, Joe?
Yeah.
Now you're just cutting the other side of the box, correct? So same steps basically as the first thing for the other sides, right?
It is. That's alright. I'm using a scissor now. Now what I'm doing here is I'm just trimming excess foam to make sure that the line that I'm about to cut is going to be straight.
Did I cut on a layer too much?
Yes.
I did. I thought I did.
That's just a beast now. And it really doesn't need to be.
What? There we go. That's better. Steady get time.
Just gonna make a little notch here. when you're new to this, I would measure everything. In my case, I'm just going to do this quickly. By cutting a straight line.
Sir, scissors, second bar.
You're done with the innermost part. I'm going to stop it and then record for the second part.
Yeah, you don't need to record.
I don't
all
need
of
it
this.
now.
Yeah, I didn't think so, but